While the city slept under the humid weight of southern summer, the rain began to fall. Not violently at first, but steadily, persistently, like a tap left open too long. By the time most residents realized something was wrong, it was already too late. Guangzhou was filling up. By midnight, the Pearl River Delta's sprawling megacity, a place built on trade, speed, and constant movement, had slowed to a suffocating crawl. Water gathered in silence across roads, under bridges, inside neighborhoods. Then, almost without warning, it surged. Low-lying districts were the first to go. Streets turned into long, dark channels, reflecting the glow of neon signs now trembling in distorted waves. Cars disappeared one by one into rising water, headlights flickering before vanishing beneath opaque brown currents. Motorbikes lay scattered like fallen dominoes. Drain covers rattled as pressure built beneath them, then gave way in violent bursts of upward flow. This was not just flooding. It was backflow. The city was not draining. It was reversing. In several areas, water did not simply fall from the sky, it rose from below. Sewage systems overwhelmed by the volume began to push water back into the streets, turning infrastructure designed to protect the city into conduits of intrusion. What should have carried water away instead delivered it inward, faster and dirtier. Residents woke to sounds they could not immediately recognize, not thunder, not traffic, but a low, continuous movement. A liquid presence. By the time lights were switched on, the floors were already wet. Pizza. Neighborhoods, water entered homes like an uninvited guest that knew no urgency because it did not need it. It spread across tiles, climbed furniture legs, soaked into walls. Refrigerators hummed briefly, then died. Elevators froze. Entire apartment blocks lost power as circuits shorted out under pressure. There is a specific kind of fear that comes with nighttime flooding. You do not see it coming. You discover it, and by the time you understand it, you're already inside it. From an expert perspective, the event was a perfect storm of conditions and a perfect failure of timing. Guangzhou sits at the heart of one of the most densely urbanized and hydrologically complex regions in the world. Heavy rainfall is not unusual, but when intense precipitation coincides with high river levels, tidal influence, and saturated ground conditions, the system reaches a breaking point. That point was crossed last night. Rainfall exceeded the city's short-term drainage capacity. River levels limited outward flow. Urban surfaces prevented absorption. And critically, underground systems burdened beyond design thresholds began to fail in reverse. In simple terms, the city had nowhere to send the water. So the water stayed. And then it spread. Emergency services were mobilized through the early hours, but the darkness complicated everything. Visibility dropped. Flood depth was difficult to assess. Roads that appeared shallow concealed sudden drops. Rescue teams moved carefully, navigating a city that had lost its physical logic, where familiar streets no longer behaved as expected. Boats were deployed in some areas before dawn. Residents were guided out of submerged buildings, some wading through waist-deep water, others waiting on upper floors as the situation stabilized. Elderly and children were prioritized, carried through water that was no longer just rain, but a mixture of runoff, debris, and urban residue. rain continued, relentless, uninterrupted. As if the sky itself had decided to test how much the city could hold. By early morning on June 19th, the rainfall began to ease. Water levels stabilized, then slowly, reluctantly began to recede. But what it left behind was heavy, not just in damage, but in atmosphere. Mud-coated streets, waterlogged vehicles, shops gutted from below, homes that smelled of damp concrete and contaminated water, and a population that had Here's the uncomfortable truth. Guangzhou did not fail because it is weak. It struggled because it is full. Full of people, full of infrastructure, full of surfaces that reject water, full of systems designed for a climate that is becoming more aggressive, more unpredictable, more concentrated in its extremes. Last night was not an outlier. It was a preview, a demonstration of what happens when rainfall intensity outpaces urban adaptation, when drainage becomes delay, protection fails. When a city, no matter how advanced, is forced to confront the simple physics of water, it flows, it gathers, and when blocked, it returns. And perhaps the most haunting detail is this. Guangzhou did not drown loudly. It drowned in the dark, in silence, in the slow, suffocating realization that the water was not leaving, it was rising.
Hits it. Hits it. Hits it. Hits it.